Preview season continues on, and today it's all about the Louisville Cardinals. Jeff Brom goes into another season where it seems as though he might just quarterback whisper his way to a really good year. The schedule's really in their favor. What can they do, and how can they improve what was a middle of the pack offense last year? We'll talk about all that and more here today on this episode of Armchair Analysis. I'm sorry, I got, of course, a dog hair in my face immediately. It's the perks of having three of them. Um, Man, it is interesting to get into this Louisville team. But before we do that, I want to say thank you guys so much. This first month of preview season has been some of the best growth we have ever had on this channel, plain and simple. And y'all tuning in and taking your time to be here and following, subscribing, leaving likes has been greatly appreciated. It's definitely proven that there is, it's given me a little bit of kind of motivation to kind of carry on and keep going, even when we've had some tough days over here lately. So, this isn't a cry for help or nothing, but like genuinely, it's been had some very long days and some very long nights trying to get these together and put things together. It's difficult when you work a full-time job and on top of that have a family of dogs to take care of. So just appreciate you guys so much for tuning in and sticking around, and hopefully you'll continue to do that. So with that said, if you are new around here, leave a like, subscribe, comment down below. We've got preview season every single day up until August 7th, which basically means that we started June 1st, and we have 68 teams to cover in 68 days. And with the double uploads this weekend, we are back on track for 68 teams in 68 days. With that said, you can also check us out on social media. You can check us out on Discord, and you can also follow me over on Spotify. The videos have not been uploaded. Again, I'm just a one-man team, so sometimes I fall a little behind. I'm trying my best, but the Spotify thing is definitely difficult, especially when there's not too many people over there. As a matter of fact, I don't think there's been a view on Spotify, so I feel more concerned about getting YouTube stuff out. But nonetheless, I thank you guys so much for tuning in. Let's go ahead and dig into this video. When we talk about this Louisville team, it's really, again, the leadership of Jeff Brom and Brian Brom as the OC. But then you look at this defense, and you'd be surprised, at least it certainly caught me a little off guard, at how good this defense was last year. When you look at their numbers, about 21 points per game, 300 yards per game allowed. I mean, they were, and of course, an alarm goes off. They were a top 25 team in the majority of categories and the majority of stats other than points per game allowed, which they sat in 38th, which really wasn't that bad when you look at the numbers overall. The offense surprisingly felt like it sat behind a little bit. What can they do to make that look better? Well, we'll talk a little bit about it. This is a team that returns 53% of production from last year. 21 seniors, 26 juniors, 13 sophomores, and 33 freshmen. This is going to be a fun team. I mean, there's a very good mix of young and old and guys who have been around for a while and guys who are just getting their start. It's going to make for a very fun year watching this team. The reason I say that specifically is because you look at the quarterback position. That's going to be kind of your biggest and the first key here is Lincoln Keenholz. How good can he be? He's coming over from Ohio State. And to be honest, here is why I feel like I'm, spoiler alert a little bit, here's why I'm so high on this team and specifically him at quarterback is because he's been coached by two of the best quarterback coaches in college football, Ryan Day, and now he'll be led by Jeff Brom and Brian Brom. You can't tell me that this kid is not going to have it figured out. The reason he got overlooked at Ohio State was simply because Better came in, and honestly, the reason he wasn't going to stay is because Tavian St. Clair is a freak athlete who has an incredible arm. I mean, I think everybody should be happy that Ohio State doesn't have Tavian St. Clair on this team starting because Julian Sand, while he's great, St. Clair is the next big thing, and he's going to be a Heisman caliber quarterback from the very beginning when he steps on the field up there in Columbus. There was no room for Keenholz, so he comes down to Louisville where he can succeed and he can be the guy at quarterback. I feel like this is going to be a very successful pairing down here. It's going to remind you a lot of kind of what Aiden O'Connell could do when he was at Louisville. Or no, I completely messed that up. That was not Aiden O'Connell. But it could remind you of Aiden O'Connell at Purdue. Man, who did I miss on here? What was I thinking? I don't know. I don't know what I just missed there. Wow, that was bad. Anyways, but it will remind you a lot of Aiden O'Connell back at Purdue, kind of what he can do, how he can be. I'm going to leave that in because I do make mistakes sometimes, and sometimes my brain ain't great. You go to the running back position. Marquise Davis comes over from Missouri. He's going to jump into what should be a really good running back room. And I think it's going to be a two-headed monster at running back, but we'll talk more about that later. But Davis could fill in and be a really solid third. At wide receiver, there's quite a few changes. The big one, I think, is Trey Richardson, but LaWayne McCoy comes over as well. There's going to be some names there to watch out for. The tight end position looks really intriguing with Brody Foley, but you also have Jaleel Skinner coming back, and then Justin Reed comes over from Tulane. There's good pieces in these rooms, and again, we'll talk a little more about them when we do the lineup prediction. Overall, though, this team last year was 9-4, 4-4 in ACC play. They won their bowl game, and they recruited okay, 48th with 21 commitments, but they were 13th in the transfer portal with 34 commitments. It was certainly a necessary thing for them, trying to put together a good year, not only in recruiting but in the portal. And I think they did a great job. The portal class, I think, is going to be very impactful on what their year looks like. So with that said, let's go ahead and take a look at some of the stats from last year before we get into the 2026 side of things. Again, we talked about it. This team was outside the top 50 in all but points per game offensively. However, they were inside the top 25 in all but points per game defensively. This is a solid team and a team that I think brings back enough experience that you can expect a repeatable year on defense. And you can expect this offense, I think, to take steps forward. And I think it starts with the run game, right? This is a really good team that was led by Isaac Brown, who led the country in yards per carry last year. I would expect, and I think you can expect, to see the same thing out of this offense. I think they're going to be very fun to watch. And I think the numbers will take steps forward just simply through better quarterback play, and I think the run game just gets better. When you look at the offense, and we'll just go ahead and dig right into it. I've already talked a little bit about it, but Lincoln Keenholz is the guy at quarterback. And, you look at Devin Widener, who comes in. We'll see if he has any chance to compete, but I don't really think that's going to happen. So it's Keenholz, and he's got 250 career yards and 1 touchdown. Very inexperienced, but as I've said, when you've been coached by Ryan Day and Jeff Brom and Brian Brom, I just feel like that's a key for success. I mean, this is a kid that's going to come in and have a really good first year as a starter. You look at the running back position, Isaac Brown, 880 yards, 7 touchdowns. Again, 8.8 yards per carry last year, led the country. Kewan Brown comes back, 700 yards rushing last year, 6 touchdowns, 7.3 yards per carry. Two really good running backs who I think are going to be very solid together. And then, of course, Marquise Davis had 200 yards and 2 touchdowns last year. We'll see what he's able to do. You look at the receiver room, it's Trayshawn Hurry coming back, and he's one of the lone receivers in this room that is back from last year's team. Terrence McWilliams also back as well. But you look beyond that, LaWayne McCoy and Trey Richardson. Those are the 3 in this room that have considerable stat lines put up. And Trey Richardson, an 800-yard receiver last year, 7 touchdowns, was really solid for Vanderbilt. We'll see what he's able to do if he can kind of fill in. And then we talk about the tight end room, which I think is 3 deep and has 3 guys that can go out and make plays at any time. Brody Foley comes over from Tulsa, 500-yard receiver, 7 touchdowns. And then Justin Reed and Jaleel Skinner, both 200-yard receivers last year. The offensive line is very experienced. As a matter of fact, everybody has 600-plus snaps outside of Casey Henry, who is a very solid player in his own right and actually the best graded offensive lineman on this team. Had 115 snaps last year, so there's a decent sample size to say that those 82 and 85 grades in run and pass block, respectively, are legit and not just a kind of a small sample size being blown up. It's going to be interesting to watch. I'm kind of excited to see how this offensive line takes steps forward. You talk about Anwar O'Neal, Eric Dougherty, Johnny Brown, and Casey Henry, all 4 of them transfers. Lance Robinson, the only one from last year, and had 800 snaps last year. So this is a good group. And when you look at the guys behind them, it's not a lot of experience. So again, injuries could play a factor this year if that were to happen, but we're going to act as though they don't or they won't affect the offensive line as much. So taking a look over at the defense. This defense, led by Steve Ellis and Mark Ivey, co-defensive coordinators, I think has room to take some big steps forward. And the big reason for that is because there's a lot of returning production defensively. They're not ranked overly high, or they're not like in the top 15 or 20. As a matter of fact, I don't even think they're in the top 50 defensively. I'm saying that one specific. But there are pieces here that I really like, and we'll kind of go through them as we can here. So AJ Green, a guy that didn't have a tremendous amount of stats brought in last year, and so we'll see what he's able to do. And we'll see if he's even one of the guys that starts. But I'm projecting him as a starter. Cleve Lubin last year, 13 and a half tackles for loss, 8.5 sacks. If we're talking about a guy that can potentially go and put up a 10-plus sack season, I think Cleve Lubin's the guy. And we talk about guys like Jared Smith II, who's going to fill in as a backup defensive lineman. I think that Tyler Thompson is going to be one that we really want to look for and kind of be curious if he can jump in and maybe be one of the defensive ends this year. The reason for that is 25 tackles last year, but 7.5 for loss, 7 sacks. If Tyler Thompson can be that good paired up with Cleve Lubin, we're talking about a dangerous defensive line duo once again in 2026. You look at the defensive tackle room, it's very, very underexperienced. D'Amico Kennedy, 21 tackles, 3 for loss, and a sack. Dalen Russell, 6 tackles, 1 tackle for loss. And then the other guys, Joshua Donald and Bailey Abercrombie, don't have any stats. That'll be interesting to watch how they can maybe push that forward. Abercrombie, a redshirt freshman, Donald, a redshirt senior. As a linebacker position, TJ Capers and Stanquan Clark bring back the most experience, and they should be the starters. I see no reason that won't be the case. Capers brings back an interception, 3 tackles for loss last year. Stanquan Clark, a 19 tackle performance last year with 1.5 for loss. The DB room, it starts with DJ Waller Jr. He is a guy who does not have a ton of experience. As a matter of fact, only 26 tackles and 4 pass breakups over his career. Those are the biggest stats he's put together. It's going to be interesting. I don't know if he's going to be CB1. I think that it's very possible that Tayon Holloway plays the top corner position. 42 tackles last year, 3.5 for loss, and 2 interception. The name that's going to stay where he is Antonio Watts, because I think he plays really well out of that nickel position. 42 tackles, 6.5 for loss, 2 sacks, 3 interceptions. Was able to kind of do it all for this team. And that makes me excited to see what maybe the future could hold for him. Can he be that heavy production guy out of the slot corner spot where it helps, where it can add another piece for maybe a distraction to take away, or maybe if Cleve Lubin can't get off his side, maybe you bring Antonio Watts off the same side and try to make them make a decision. There's plenty that can be done defensively with Antonio Watts. You go and look at the safety room, and it's experience, but a lot of transfer experience. Cohen Entringer comes in, 73 tackles, 4 PBUs last year. Caleb Beasley, 24 tackles last year. TJ Banks is another transfer, had 20 tackles, and then Micah Rice is a redshirt freshman who they would like to see take some steps forward as well. Again, a very young defense beyond the starters, and really this team is just very young beyond the starters in general. But the starters, I think, can make a big impact. I think this team will be favored in a lot of their games, and I think it comes from the quarterback position and what this line of scrimmage play can look like and potentially do. I think they're going to be really good in that area. The other thing that helps this Louisville team is the schedule. The win total sits at 7.5, and I understand why. Look, there are some teams that if they hit this year, that this Louisville team can be worse. It could certainly not be as close to ACC title contention as people might think. But they currently sit in third in ACC championship odds behind Miami and SMU. They sit in a decent spot in national championship odds. I mean, why are they that high in the ACC and national title odds if they're not, if they're only a 7.5 win team, a team that's expected to win 8 games at most? Now, part of that could be because they're projected to lose or not be favored in games against Ole Miss and Kentucky. And they could go 7-2 in ACC play. It's very possible. There's also a world where, again, Georgia Tech hits earlier than we think. Pitt could be really good. Wake Forest could be really good. Florida State could figure it out somehow. SMU is going to be good. And Kentucky and Ole Miss, again, we talked about it. So there's room for probably 5 losses here. I just don't quite think that's going to be the case. I think this is a team that's better than that. And I think they'll live up more to those ACC title odds where they're closer, if not fighting, for a conference championship berth by the end of the year. So with that said, let's go ahead and roll into it. You start with the Sunday game, Labor Day weekend, Week 1 against Ole Miss. Neutral site game should be exciting to watch. I'm very pumped for this game because I think it's gonna be a lot of fun. You'll see Lincoln Keenholz face a good defense with Pete Golding and the new staff over at Ole Miss. You'll see Ole Miss kind of breaking in a new coaching staff and see how game management works. It's going to be a fun one, but I'm excited to just watch it, see how it plays out. I am taking Ole Miss to win the game, though. I think this Ole Miss team is going to be more talented. Trinidad Chambliss probably going to be a Heisman contender. It's going to be a really exciting season to watch both of these teams and specifically to get this game early in the year to kind of get a feel for both sides. They'll come out of that game, play Villanova on Friday night, September 11th. They'll get a win there, staying home and facing SMU to follow that up on September 19th. I just think this SMU team is going to be a little better, and this is going to be one of those spots where the SMU secondary is really solid, and I'm actually pumped to get to this team and preview them a little bit later. But the secondary is going to be good, which I think is a problem for Lincoln Keenholz. I think that there could be some mistakes made in this game. And I think the overall experience of Kevin Jennings, especially in road environments, will be enough to help SMU get the job done. If this game were later in the year, I might feel a little differently, especially with it being in Louisville. But the way it is, first 3 games of the year, you face 2 really tough teams. Unfortunately, you just fall. I think they will bounce back, though. They'll face Wake Forest, and you'll get to see another defense that's really solid in the secondary. And I think they'll be able to answer that. I think they'll get the win over the Demon Deacons. Going on the road to face NC State at Carter Finley, I think they'll be able to get the job done there before coming back home and facing Florida State on Friday night. And this game being Friday night makes a little difference, but to be honest, I just think this is a better team. I think they'll beat Florida State. Come back out and face Syracuse on the road, and I think they'll get the win there as well. So starting the year, what do we got? 5-2 going into the final 5 games of the year. 1 win away from bowl eligibility, and if they can manage to win out, a 10-win season and potentially a playoff berth. That's what's on the line. You come back out of the bye week and face Stanford. I think you'll get the win there, and then go on the road to face Georgia Tech. We'll see where Georgia Tech is at this point in the season. I'm very back and forth on what I think they'll be and how good I think they can be. A new starting quarterback, a new offense that I don't know how much it's going to change. I have a lot of question marks about what this Georgia Tech team will be, and I think that gives me a lot of pause and giving them a huge win somewhere. That might change again, but having this game at home helps a little bit. Still going to go Louisville, though. I think the Cardinals win that game. On the road at Chapel Hill against North Carolina, I think they'll win that game as well before coming back home and facing Pitt. I think Pitt's going to be really good, especially at this point in the year. I think this is going to be 2 really good teams who are looking to kind of at their outside chance at ACC title hopes, right? Outside chance to make the game and have an opportunity to go play in Charlotte. I think Louisville being the home team is the difference maker here. I think the Cardinals get the job done, putting it as a 9-2 record going into the final game at Kentucky. And I think that this is the opportunity for Will Stein and his program to really get another program-defining type win this season. And I think that's exactly what's going to happen. I think Kentucky dashes the hopes of Louisville to make the college football playoff, resulting in a 93 record, 8-1 in ACC play. We'll see. Is that enough to go on and make the college football playoff or make the ACC title at the very minimum? We'll see. I don't think the wins will be there. I think that they'll be just shy of playoffs. But I certainly think they have potential to be a really good team. Again, I think 9-3 is a year they would take right now. And I think they could do even better than that. I think there is a chance at 10 wins. Saying that, I think that's the ceiling, is 10-2. I think the floor for this team, if I'm looking at the schedule up here, I think the floor, I'm going to go 8-4. Yeah, I think 8-4 is probably it. I don't really see them losing 5 games. I don't think this team's poorly coached. I don't think they're in a position where 5 games is really in the cards for them. I think they'll go out and be at least solid. So, yeah, 10-2 is the ceiling, 8-4 is the floor. Let me know what you guys think. Louisville fans, as always, let me know your thoughts down below. Would love to hear what you guys have to say. If there's anything I might have missed or not mentioned enough, by all means, let me know down there in the comments section below. Again, I asked if you're new around here, you leave a like, subscribe, comment down below, as I've mentioned already. But check us out over on social media. Check us out on Discord, and follow us on Spotify if you haven't already. Tomorrow we got the TCU Horned Frogs. Very excited to talk about TCU and what the new look might be over there in Fort Worth. As for the next as for the next ACC team, we've got the Clemson Tigers coming up July 3rd. So make sure you stick around for that. Don't miss out. We've got a fun week ahead. A few teams I cannot wait to talk about. Northwestern's coming not tomorrow, but on the 1st, Wednesday. And I am so excited to talk about this Northwestern team. So we've got some really fun stuff coming up in the next few days that is going to be, I think, a really good time. So thank y'all so much for tuning in. Have a great rest of your day. We will see you guys tomorrow with another episode of Armchair Analysis. Cover the TCU Horned Frogs here on Preview Season.